Hey! Welcome to Art, Science, Nature, Knit podcast. I'm Natalie, Cool Water, Hot Sun. And thanks for coming by. Hanging out on the porch of my house. It's crazy. I'm almost inside. Next thing you know, I'm going to be inside. I'm on this couch because we moved it outside. So maybe next time actually we'll record inside where we hung sky chairs. Yeah, I actually end up doing a ton of my knitting, so don't be fooled. I am inside more than probably I'd like to be, but welcome! Happy solstice! Today, Friday, 21st. The world hasn't ended, as far as I can tell, which is great. I do think that all that is, progress to a higher consciousness for humanity, maybe? Who knows? I really don't think about it that much. I just really like solstice because it keeps happening. And I am recording today, but this probably won't go up until tomorrow at the earliest, but that's okay because solstice is a multi-day event. What it means is the sun is setting at the same point on the horizon for 2 or 3 days in a row. It doesn't go any further south. It sets at the farthest south point on the horizon. And if we're lucky and if I get my act together, I'm gonna film tonight's sunset because the sun is out. This is our second day of sunshine. It's actually our third, but it had snowed since it started snowing on Friday a week ago, and it snowed all the way through Tuesday. We got like a foot in the first snow, and then another, 6-8 inches, a lot down here at low elevation. They were getting like 3 feet up at higher elevations. So the first day was really windy, and now the sun came out, and yesterday was freezing still, and the sun was out, but nothing melted, and today it's warming up. So probably should have gone skiing today before it gets too warm and melts the snow, but hopefully go tomorrow and seek out some north face slopes or something like that. But things are melty, the icicles are getting long, and we're going to go out, and part of the reason I'm recording here is because nature for later is around the pinyon juniper zone. But from right here, you can see the bird feeders, which you'll see later. They have been going off since it was interesting. They were jamming on the feeders right as the snowfall was ending, and then as soon as the sun came out, they were gone. I think they went out to go foraging because suddenly the storm was over. But we've been getting a lot of them, mostly juncos and chickadees, but we do get Stellar's jays and red-shafted flickers, and I'll show you some later, but you won't be able to see the birds. But I love it when people mention birds on their podcast, so I've been remiss. We actually get a lot of really interesting woodpeckers, and but yeah, I'll show you some footage later, and got the Christmas lights in the tree. It's great. It's fun. It's great to have snow. It's really great. We need more. But what else? Been doing a lot of knitting, tons of knitting. And my people know that I almost never get stuff to them on time, but it's usually around Christmas. So that's okay. But first, I just want to, a couple thanks. I got wrapped again. Thank you. This is so fun. I love the wrapping. Natalie Ford, not this most recent Tuesday, but the Tuesday before, like a week and a half ago, gifted me her very own design of the Pine Hills scarf, which is really, really cool. It's knitted in the round and there's no wrong side, and it's this beautiful lace pattern, and It's very interesting construction technique where you sort of like work the two ends together to the middle, and it's really neat. It was new to me, but a lot of knitting is new to me. But it was really neat, so I'll show you a picture of it here. And she's really awesome. She's from Horsham, West Sussex, UK, and her little avatar is a puffin. Very cool. And she does have a website for her designs, which I'll link to. And it's like she's got some cool free patterns, and it looks like I like what she's doing because it looks like she makes something she wants, like a water bottle cozy or an iPhone cozy, and then she actually goes through with writing up the pattern, which is great. I mean, I can barely take notes as I'm going, but she goes through with them. So good for you, Natalie Ford, and she's Natalie. Sweet, hooray for Natalie's! I've been seeing them out there. Yeah, that's genius. Take notes, write them up. Good job. And she says on her profile page that she has no stash aside from leftovers because she just gets yarn for the project. Miracle. It's a miracle. And one more thing about her, but before we go on, I want to show you the mountains. We're on my porch and looking out. I'm going to get out of the way so I can show you the mountains. Snowy! I know that things may change over time, so I'm going to try to take a few pictures over, the next few days and see if I could do sort of like some kind of stop action photography thing with them, but gorgeous. And yeah, we're in Colorado. It's country Christmas. Got a saguaro decorated, a little neckerchief. Got the lasso and some goodies in the gift bag, a boot. God, who knows? Some more handkerchiefs. Crazy Christmas sweater. All I can say is you should go over to Multicraftual and check out their thread for ugly sweaters. You might be surprised about what you find there. Anyway, back to Natalie. Thanks again. I will knit that. I think I have the yarn for it and everything. But she just finished the Seaweed Socks by Wendy Johnson, and they're beautiful cable lace pattern, and that is really funny to me because people always talk about their favorite things. One of my favorite things is seaweed. I harvested this. This is a seaweed called, I harvested this in California, on the north coast of California before I came out to Colorado. And it's dried. I was so into this before I left. I mean, I harvested it like 3 days before I left, and it wasn't even dry, so we just put it in a cardboard box and let it dry as we traveled for 4 days across. God, it's anything I can do to just not put this in my mouth right now. But yeah, I was determined to bring, and so I got a gallon. I got 2 half-gallon jars dried of this. And if we go to California, when we go to California, take you guys seaweed harvesting, because I'm been here since September, October, November, December, 3 months. Yeah, I might be able to make it through. 3 months got me, I went through almost 2 jars of this. I have another type from the San Juan Islands. And I don't know if this is going to last me. I'm going to have to go out to California just to get more seaweed. So I love eating it with almonds. It's really an amazing treat, and I have been trying not to eat any sugar lately. So it's really salty. It has every trace mineral a person needs, and it's actually not too salty. It's great on salads and soups, just crunchy as a snack. When I lived in California in a moist environment, it would get kind of moist, and so I just roast it in a hot skillet, and make it crunchy again. Such a yummy treat. It really is satisfying, and since it's dry, once you eat it, it swells up, and then it's really filling. So the reason I bring that up is because, I've been thinking about it lately. So hi everybody in California, anybody on a coastline, hello, but especially Northern California and the San Juan Islands. I know I have you viewers. So, hi. Say hi to the seaweed for me. Say hi to the bullwhip kelp and the pedicides. There's so many. All seaweeds are edible, except one. And when you taste it, you wouldn't want to eat. It tastes like electricity. It's the weirdest thing. But anyways, I bring that up because people do their favorite things and because I love it and I've been eating a lot of it lately, but also because I am planning on knitting along with Joanna of Knit Spin Farm. I think I'm a Knit Spin Farm groupie. Well, maybe not, because I haven't watched her Solstice episode. Go watch her Solstice episode. It's really good. I mean, I think it's going to be really good. It's about solstice. But she's having a rare breed knit along, spin along in January. As long as it's one of the rare breeds in the Fleece and Fiber source book, or can somehow, sounds like she's being a little bit strict, like you have to be able to prove that it's actually a rare breed. But anyway, I'm planning on using, I don't have it yet, North Ronaldsay sheep, which is a sheep from the Orkney Islands in Ireland, or Scotland. Is that Scotland? It must be Scotland. Oh my god. I know of a Scottish viewer. Tell us. Oh, I can look it up. Silly me. Anyway, their breed strain is about 5,000 years old, and they go back to, they're one of the breeds that was used to crossbreed future breeds that are really common, like Shetlands and Merinos. But for some reason, a long time ago, I don't know how long ago, 1920s maybe? I'm going to look this up. But they were walled off from the pasture land because cattle got more, became more valuable. And so they walled the sheep off, and the sheep were forced to stay down on the coastline, and they learned how to eat seaweed. They survived on seaweed. And they had these really long, shaggy coats, and I really can't wait to find out what the wool is going to be like. I'm imagining it's going to be really, maybe kind of coarse, and we'll see. I know that to preserve the breed, they have taken them up off the coast and put them on pasture to help them reproduce and keep the species alive because, well, they're a rare breed. So I've been scouring around looking for yarn, and maybe I'll knit the seaweed socks. So thank you, Natalie, for turning me on to the seaweed socks. They look really pretty. I was trying to figure out what to knit, like how much yarn should I get. It's going to be a gift from my wonderful boyfriend, and so I didn't want to like get a sweater's worth, so I was thinking fingerless mitts, but maybe socks, but would they wear well? They could be indoor socks. Anyways, yeah. And just one more note on saying hi to folks in California, in Northern California. Polly from the Polly Knits mentioned my podcast again. Thank you. So awesome. He likes being outside and never know where you're going to end up. So, and I just wanted to say, you still have a little more time to get your men's knits in his Let's Hear It for the Guys knit along. It's really fun. There's a lot of good projects over there. So check out Polly Knits. Okay. So, yeah. I will be getting my Christmas things in the mail right after we finish up here. They're ready to go. They're on little hangers. This is miniature sweaters. That little pair is for my brother and his fiance. And this pair, here's, I'll show you this one. These, I haven't made hangers yet for this little guy. And then there's one that's still blocking. This one's a little bigger. And here's, he's still blocking on my sleeping mats. But that's for my mom and her husband. And it's all supposed to use, you know, sock yarn. So this is, I have these on right now. The ones I'm going to wear out. My jaw wool by Lang, and then The pattern is Minutia by the Barocco team. I've shown this before, and I'll link to it because it's probably not showing up great, but it has 12 little sweaters on here, and they are using their Ultra Alpaca Light, and that's what this is. I have a bunch of that waiting to become gloves. And then this little robe is the cutest thing. Oh my god. How cute is that? This is of a cotton. It's got like little blips of shiny. And it's got a little drawstring. Oh my god. So many chickadees. I almost want to stop the camera right now and film them. They're so cute. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 birds on one feeder. I have suet feeders? Is suet bad? Somebody please tell me. Is it okay? I mean, I know seed. People give seed to birds, but I've heard that maybe all the fat that they use to make suet is not so good for them. Somebody please tell me if I'm doing a horrible thing to the birds. Anyways, this is a cotton, and I'm going to wrap some earrings in the little knit wrap. It's knit wrap for a friend, and send that to her. But yeah, these are all sort of fiddly. I would like to know if anybody else is making these. How long is it taking you to make them? They take me like half a day or more, especially something like this. I mean, they're fiddly. There's all these seams all these ends to weave in, and like when you go across the neck, you drop your yarn and add it again on the other side and come back and pick up again. And if you do colors, and then there's the seaming, and most of these are knitted flat and then seamed up, so you could knit them in the round. But yeah, I think they take longer than they seem. But I tell you what, I am more glad than ever to know about these, because like from now on, I think this is what I'm gonna do to swatch things. Because yeah, you could knit this flat, you could knit it in the round. Because yeah, okay, I do a lot of swatching. I actually am one of those crazy people who doesn't mind swatching. So like for instance, here is, I've been planning a bunch of socks. So here's a swatch. It's a little pouch. It becomes a little bag, and I have a ton of them that are maybe only this long. And so I've like been wondering what the heck to do with this. On one of them, which was really thick wool, I slipped it on the handle for a long one. I slipped it on a handle of a skillet, so it's like a little skillet pot holder. So that was good if your yarn's really thick. And then the shorter ones, I was thinking, I don't have one, but I was thinking about using them like little pockets. You could sew a little flap on them and a little button, and then use it to hold stitch markers or something, and you could clip the stitch marker to the outside. It's a thought. But now, I don't have to wonder. I can just knit a sweater, and then I'll have a sweater and a swatch. I mean, these were perfect little swatches, right? I think so. I'm gonna see. I'm gonna make miniature things for swatches from now on and see how that works. But the hangers, which instructions on how to make them are part of the pattern, and it's free on Barocco's website, I used yellow plastic coated 20 gauge steel wire. They call for 16, which is a bigger wire, which is probably a better idea. But for these little tiny guys, you can see the two different sizes. Yeah, so tiny sweaters. Da, 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 da. So this yarn is a very special yarn. Okay, this is a sparkly hand-dyed yarn. In this, by the way, is the white is just Kid Seda held triple. Anyway, this is this. It's gorgeous. It is called, this is a hand-dyed yarn dyed exclusively for the Yarn Sharp in Eureka, California yarn. And I think it's funny that the two towns I lived in when I've been a serious knitter have the yarn shop called Yarn. Anyway, this is yarn in Eureka, California. And this has sparkles in it. It's 75% superwash merino, 20% nylon, and 5% stellina, and it is a fingering, and it's 438 yards, except for the tiny little bit I've already used, which is probably 10 yards? I don't know. And it's called Humboldt, and all the colors are named after things in Humboldt County, and this one's called Love Rhodie for the rhododendrons. And I'm telling you this because Polly mentioned that she's trying to get more traffic to her website, and I went and I looked at her website, and it's a great little shop. It's one of those beautiful shops with a wall of yarn, and I looked to see if she had any of the Humboldt County yarns, because she has a ton of handcrafted in Humboldt County and dyed in Humboldt County yarns. But she didn't have a link to just those, so I asked her if she was going to do that. But it'd be worth checking out. She has a lot of great stuff otherwise, and hopefully she'll get a cool Humboldt County line going. And I've given her a little nudge. I hope she does. But yeah, I'll let you know. But in the meantime, it's a giveaway because it's solstice. I like all my major pagan holidays, and I think those are great times to celebrate. And so I'm doing a giveaway, and I'm doing it also because we hit 100 members. Woohoo! You guys are great. Thanks for everybody tuning in. And yeah, I'm gonna give this away, and tell your friends. And I'm gonna start a thread, and what you got to do to win this is join the group, and I'll start a thread, and I want you to tell me what your favorite outdoor location is. And that could be, you know, the gazebo you got married in, or some remote place in the Himalayas, or anything. But it has to be outside. And tell me why you like it. And I want to know if you have a science note or nature note for it, or an artsy note. Like, is there something very poetic about it or very artistic about it? Did it inspire you to do a painting? Did it, or do you know something kind of technical about it that you want to tell me? So, tell me that, tell your friends, and I think I'll run it. I was thinking I would probably record again right before New Year's, but I might do 2 rounds of podcasting, so I could show it again, tell people again, because I know people don't always keep up with all the podcasts. So, but tell your friends. It's really nice stuff. It's sparkly. I can tell you what the gauge is because I have a swatch. Anyway, probably about 400 and I'm gonna say 15 yards to be safe. But yeah, I'm excited. I'm gonna give it away. And I did actually ended up using some Rowan alpaca that I got at Yarn when I lived there. So good stuff. This is alpaca, merino, and viscose. So that's what the little guy's sweater is made out of. So get some! I can't wait to go get some. Okay, so more knitting. There's definitely more knitting. So I'm still doing this. All the little sweaters were a deviation from the knit-alongs, which I've been doing a lot of, and that's a lot of knit-alongs. I will be happy to be done with knit-alongs, but I'm happy to be doing them. I'm going to be happy to get back to my own tangents. So, first off, we've got the For Good hat. I like the For Good hat. I love it, actually. It's marvelous. I've gotten further enough along so now that you can see the pattern. Hopefully you can see it. Is that better? No, probably not. I really can't see what you're saying, but It's really good, I'll tell you that much. And it is a benefit. It is a fundraiser for a great organization. And last I checked, the zombies had raised in the thousands for the National Women's Health Organization. And I totally support it. I gave this hat, and I'm happy to say, I'm happy to donate. I am doing it on my race car needles, the High Sharps US 6, and in the Blue Sky Alpacas, Surrey Alpaca, which is 60% Surrey Alpaca and 40% Merino. It is scrumptious. Oh, so nice. And I have determined through this project that a size 6 square needle, at least the way I knit, comes up with a smaller gauge. Because these are 6s, and I just did a project with 6s in the same exact yarn. And yep, sure enough, the size 6 square needles produced a smaller gauge for me. Confirmed. But who cares? I'm never going back. I love these. I love my High Sharps. So great. Race car needles. Anything else about that? No. Oh my god, I left my whole beatnik sweater inside. Okay, we'll do everything else first, and then I'll run in and get that. So, this project, I didn't do anything else on it because I've been knitting sweaters like crazy. You remember this jacket out of alpaca that I'm knitting, and I was looking for the right complementary color, and I found it. And I just want to show, I haven't knitted up the swatch yet, but here is a teal frog tree alpaca. And it's showing up really blue in that picture, but it is really teal. I mean, it is like parrot teal. Anyways, just want to show you guys, to let you know, I haven't forgotten about it. I love this project and I want to do it. But other things have been distracting me. The slippers I've been wearing around. You remember that? I'll go get those too. Just hold on a minute. I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. So I was saying the slippers, which I love, super warm, and I wasn't wearing them because they don't fit. They were little small. One of them was just a little small, but it got so cold that even in socks around the house it was cold. So I've been wearing them, but and maybe they're gonna break in. I don't know. They are really floppy, but I want to re-wet them and re-stretch them. And my wonderful boyfriend came up with this idea. He said, "Go get a 6-inch bolt with a washer and a nut." And we'll put a block of wood on either end, and then all we'll have to do is, well, we'll put the washer on this side. All we'll have to do is tighten up the nut, and we'll make a shoe stretcher. So we're going to do that. We're going to cut a couple blocks of wood, and then stick it in there, get these wet again, stick it in there. I'll let you know how it goes, but make your own slipper stretcher or shoe stretcher. That is just randomness. So, I got the beatnik knit along for Hollywood Knitter, and ooh, fancy pants, what you swatching? I'm swatching sweaters. What are you swatching? What you swatching? Podcast. You've seen it. Here it is again. The Beatnik Sweater by Nora Gahn. Link to it. Yeah, I've been sort of looking at the threads. It looks like some people are doing great. A lot of people have ripped it out. A lot of people have modified cables. A lot of people are leaving out the seed stitch, or the moss stitch. I did also rip mine out. Because I was realizing that I was getting striping with my 4 different colors skeins of yarn, and I'm stoked on the cables. I like doing the cables, but I needed to come up with some, and I didn't think I would have enough yarn. So I came up with a solution. I have, this is, I don't think I have the tags, but this is Snow Leopard Trust camel wool, hand spun and raised in Mongolia by Mongolian herding families. And so I had 4 skeins of this, and all 4 were different, of course, of the natural. But I tore back everything I had, I weighed everything I had, and okay, sorry about that. My memory card was full. Some people's kids, I swear, should not be allowed to podcast. But that's okay, because I got to go see that you are actually able to see the mountains. God, so pretty. So, anyway, where was we? We was talking about the camel wool, which the undyed stuff is really soft. Like, this could be an alpaca. I mean, it's coarse. I'm sure its micron count is high, but to the touch, it's pretty darn soft. It feels it's much different than the dye, and I really wonder what kind of dye they use. It can't be, I mean, I lick my fingers a lot when I knit to keep tension a little bit. I know, really weird, but I'm a little afraid to do that because I'm always touching this dye, and it does come off the skein and onto my fingers, so I'm a little not sure about that, but the undyed stuff is really nice, and so consider checking out these guys, Snow Leopard Trust. Anyway, what I ended up doing is, I tore everything out, my beatnik and the previous sweater I had started with this, and put all the yarn in its own skeins, weighed it all, and sure enough, the weights of skeins varied between, like 4.5 to 5.5 ounces, and so that's putting it at somewhere between 150 and 200 yards, which, so if I have 800, maybe I have 800 yards, it's not enough to do the sweater, so I am doing, so I have 4 skeins, two of each are similar in color to one another, so I'm taking the 2 skeins that are similar in color and doing one side with each, and in the middle where all the cabling is. And then on the outer side, on the edges, there's 12 stitches on either side. For me, I'm doing the second size up from the bottom. And so I'm doing the natural color on the sides and the blue in the middle. And I'll see how far I get. And if I end up doing the sleeves all natural or some other creative solution, that's okay, because this is going to be my really outdoorsy play sweater, and I'm doing them on the size 8s of my High Sharps interchangeables. Love race car needles. It made, so the ribbing at the bottom calls for twisted rib, which is you knit through the back loop of the knits and the purls, and I heard Ooh Fancy Pants say that she was only twisting the knits on the right side, which is great. That's what I decided to do. So it's no problem with the pointies, which I love. So when I'm on the right side, I'm knitting through the back loop of the knits. But then when I'm on the wrong side, I knit through the back loop of the purls. So, look at that. Is that a drop stitch? No way. No, cabling. Yeah, so, yeah, the cables are hard to follow. There's many types, and, but I've got my cool magnetic board, and I'm just doing the best I can to keep track. I don't mind. It's comforting to know that I think people are not finishing by January 10th. So we'll see. Maybe till the end of January. I think it's going to get extended, so jump in. Jump in. A lot of sweaters to do. I'm excited. Excited about the sweaters. So I think that's it for that one. I'm going to definitely get back into this now that the little baby sweaters are done. Not sure if I have to make some for David's family or not. I'm not sure if I'm going out to California. But I did finish sweaters in just enough time to start something new because I got new yarn. I think this is not my first indie dyer ever, but I've not done a ton of indie dyers, and swoon. I'm completely unraveling. Unwind Yarn Company is luscious. It's the special colorway for one of the Carrie Knit Pearl Girl Memorial knit-alongs, and I am knitting it. I'm knitting Crosswords at the Coffee Shop. By Carrie Steinmetz. And that group is going off. I mean, so many people have already finished something. I was waiting for the yarn that Unwind Dye Company did especially for this, for people to do for the knit-along. This I love. It's an Aran Weight Blue Face Leicester? It's really nice. I wasn't sure what to expect and why people were so raving about it, but it's a nice soft wool, and this is the Blue Jay colorway, which I love because we get a lot of Blue Jays, and this really is blacks and blues and whites. So this is going to be very special to me, and I'm very excited about it. I've done through row 9 of the lace pattern, and it's gonna be nice. It calls for size 8s, but I'm using my 7s because my 8s are on the beatnik, and I'm gonna have to get another set of needles, more cords. That'd be cool. And it's a little funny because the pattern repeat sometimes shifts a stitch either way. So sometimes I have to take out my stitch marker between pattern repeats and move it, which is okay because I think I'm better off having stitch markers of my pattern repeats than not, because I get lost really easily, and out of 24 rows it only happens 3 times, so it's not that big of a deal. And I'll just flash this really quick so you don't see. I've got it on my crazy metal magnetic board, but I just found out I was watching another podcast. Who was I watching? Twisted Skeins? Yeah, I like them. I'm pretty sure that's their name. And they showed me Slip Stitch Studios has basically these kind of magnet strips, maybe even, I would hope, stronger than mine. At least 2 or 3 times the thickness of my magnets, in a little strip. And you can just take that little, 2 strips of magnet in a nice, lovely little ribbon, smack, and they stick together, and you could just stick them on, smack, and then just move that up and down your page. Brilliant! Sorry I keep going on and on about this, but I love tinkering with things. I like inventing things, and I'm amazed what people invent out there and how they always seem to do it better than I do. I always have to do the most complicated thing, but that was like simplistic beauty in action, and I might have to get one or make one. But check out Slip Stitch Studios. If this has been intriguing you and you think I'm a nut because it's too crazy, that's the perfect solution. Anyway, the Twisted Skeins gals, I'll link to that episode that they showed that in, so you could actually see one. I don't have one yet, but they have one, and I'll link the Slip Stitch Studios. But yeah, I checked those out right away because I'm gonna have to try that. Thank God for you guys out there. But yeah, so what else about the lovely Crosswords at the Coffee Shop? Oh, there was recommended a knitted cast on, and I love the knitted cast on. very useful, because I sort of have this weird neuroses about not wanting to waste not wanting to have an extra long tail of yarn. And so in order to combat that, I once did a search and I found Kat Bordy's little tip was to measure a certain length. She has a YouTube video on this if you go to her channel on YouTube. Measure a certain length and then cast on that length and count the number of stitches, and then divide the number of stitches you need, like 100, by the number of stitches you got, 10, and know that you need 10 of those lengths. Well, I was always doing that, and it never seemed to work. I always ended up with... I don't know what's wrong with me. But this one, you start with a little tail, and you just use your skein to cast on. I thought it was great. It's my new technical favorite. So, that is the majority of what I have for knitting. My little finished objects are not going on field trips. They're going in the mail. They're going on a long, unaccompanied field trip to California. And, but there was just a couple of other things I wanted to mention before I go into the nature section. But, I've been listening to a really cool audio podcast called The Story Collider. If you like The Moth, which is just true stories told live without notes on stage, The Story Collider is the same idea but for science stories. So I'll link to that. They're really great. And actually, one of the more recent storytellers is a knitter. So I've been meaning to look her up. But yeah. And then a lot of you literary folks are reading a lot of things, and I read a lot of stuff. I listen to a lot of stuff as audiobooks. But I just wanted to mention something. There's an author that I adore, and his name is David James Duncan. Yeah, not James David, but David James Duncan. And he wrote the book called The River Why. Right now I'm listening as a book on tape to The Brothers K, and it's just, his writing is phenomenal. He's a spectacular writer. He's hilarious. It's amazing to me that he can take some very male topics, like in The Brothers K, it's baseball, and in The River Y, it's fishing, and make them very interesting. I mean, he doesn't just go on and on about fishing or baseball. He's really weaving it into the story, and he's an amazing storyteller, and he's funny. So funny, and he does all these like crazy interesting characters, but he's very real, very heartfelt. I recommend him all the way. Not that they're new books, but the reason I bring up The River Why is because the character in that book is a young man. He leaves home, and he's really into fishing, and he goes so deep into fishing that, I mean, he is so into fishing that he just wants to fish all the time, and that's all he does. And he makes a point of going. I don't know what he's trying to do, but he is on purpose fishing as much as humanly possible, and he ends up getting very sick. But I feel like I am that guy, but I'm a knitter. All I want to do is knit. So, for anybody who ever thought to themselves, what would it be like to quit my day job and knit all the time? Well, I am your guinea pig. Because that's what I'm doing. And I feel like that guy in The River Why. And I feel like luckily, I think I've caught myself before I've made it to the totally sick point, but not completely, because I have to force myself to take a day off. I have to make myself do other things. I have to, like, fix the car and change the sink and clean the bathroom and, whatever, you know, I have to, I really need to read that book on obsession, and why that's a good thing. Because what I found is if I just sit all the time, my back gets sore, my hip gets sore, to the point of injury, and that I have learned to get up a lot, take lots of breaks, do my stretching, do my yoga, and exercise every day, which is great. Sock Bunny rewards us for that. If you exercise half an hour every day, you can enter it in Sock Bunny's Sock Bunny Knit and Fit thread. You can win stuff. It's fun. It's a great way to keep track and see what other people are doing. But yeah, not that I don't like exercise. I love it. But knitting is just so fascinating. And For anybody who wants to link it to something literary, I recommend reading The River Why. It's such a fun story. I've never laughed out loud so much at a book in all my life. Anyway, I think I'm just going to keep continuing to update you guys on how the knitting full-time experiment is going. And as it's not like it's my job and I'm a designer and I make money. No, I'm just obsessed. So anyway, I know I'm not the only one. Anybody else out there doing this? I want to know how you're doing and how you balance it with the rest of your life, which needs to happen, because ultimately I'm definitely concluding that it's unhealthy to do one thing all the time. Surprise. Anyway, speaking of books, Knit Spin Farm's having a Walden read along. I'm gonna listen along. If you'd like to do that. And one other thing is, remember the finished object field trip from last time? The gloves? Speaking of being obsessed. So, the cuff around one of them was too tight. And so, of course, it's knit from the cuff up. And so I decided to rip this back, and because I didn't do a German twisted cast on the second glove, I just did a regular cast on, so that was not stretching enough to be comfortable to get over the hand. So I was like, no, they have to be perfect. And I ripped them, but then I found out that, and maybe, anyway, I found out that you know, if you rip back in the opposite direction you knitted, everything unravels just fine. We all know that. But if you rip back from your cast on edge, no. It gets hung up. And I don't think I did a twisted ribbing. I thought maybe it was because the knit stitches were twisted, but I'm pretty sure they weren't, because they looked like not twisted stitches when I looked at them. So I did take a little video of this, and I think I'm trying to get some feedback on what you guys think. Do you want me to do like close-up sort of under the microscope experiments? I already have one in process. But yeah, I'm really, really, really fascinated with, I'm not going to show that video right now because it was just sort of like a journaling, note-taking video that I took to remember what the heck I was doing. It turned into this whole day crazy entire fiasco, and I still need to be redone again. I ended up using too large of needles, and now it's a little too floppy, and I did a Ginny's surprisingly stretchy bind-off with needles that were too big, and now it's kind of lacy and frilly, and anyway. I don't mind doing it. It just takes time. Another crazy revelation. Knitting takes a lot of time. But anyway, what I got out of it, and what I like to do, is make videos, kind of close-ups of the anatomy of knitting and following knitting, and I'll probably make them separate just in case, you know, that's not the kind of thing maybe somebody wants to watch, but my brain really follows some of the knitting, and I can say I understand the anatomy of a knit stitch, but the purl stitch really threw me off. So basically what I was trying to do is, you know, pick up stitches through the cuff of the glove, but I noticed as I was picking them up, as I was going around, I was staggering upward. The purl stitches were throwing me off. I kept thinking that the purl stitch was a higher row up. And so by the time I got back around, I was way off. And so it sent me into this reeling of what the heck with the purl stitches. I realized I really did not understand the anatomy of purl stitch. Like, sure, like when I look at a knit stitch, you know, the two V's, you know, you can see where the loop loops around and picks up the stitch above it, and you can pick up those stitches, no problem. But when I get to purl stitches, I'm like, which one is the stitch? Which one is the legs? What's the stitch? What's the ladders? What row? There's like so much more going on. Like I could turn it over and look at it and pick it out. But I realized I was deficient. I want to know. I'm going to start a thread. Do you understand your knitting anatomy? Do you think you should know more? Would you like to know more? I'm going to delve into it. But anyway, enough said about that. Look for technical videos to come. But, I know, don't you think that knit stitches look like deer tracks? You don't? You've never seen a deer track? Let's go out and look at deer tracks. So, that brings us to nature. We're going to go take a little walk around the yard, and, man, it's hard to It's hard to believe that it's so warm, and I'm kind of actually sweating on this black leather couch right now, but because it has been snowing. It was -8 degrees last night. It was windy. So the night the storm broke, like I said, it was snowing in the morning, and then it cleared up on Wednesday, and but it remained hellishly windy. Like, I'll show you a picture of those mountains. There's snow blowing. You could barely see them, and it wasn't clouds. It was just blowing snow over the mountains. And so that night, I just couldn't help but think, what are the deer doing? So I'm going to show you what they were doing. Um, I'm so amazed that animals survive this. And actually, it's really funny because I brought home a bunch of leaves to make compost and stuck them out back, and they've been eating that. So now I just put my compost out there, and they eat that too. Simple. We all win. But it's amazing me to what do they eat and how do they survive? And turns out they huddle. So let's go have a look around. Thanks for joining me on the front porch, and we'll go walk around the Pinyon Juniper Forest. And thanks for coming. Happy solstice. Have a great Christmas, and keep enjoying your laps around the sun. See you next time. Bye. It's coming down. About 3 inches overnight. Predicted to get maybe 5 today. It's a winter wonderland. As I said, I'm always fascinated by how these creatures and small animals survive in harsh, long, cold winters. And we're going to go out and look around at some evidence on how they do that in the snow out back. But first, I want to just review who exactly we're talking about here. The deer, the most obvious ones, are the biggest animals we're going to talk about, and they are worldwide deer. There are many, many different species, and they're all over the world. Africa, I think, has the least representation of deer. But in North America, they're in the deer family actually include elk and moose and caribou, which are also known as reindeer. And then the two different main categories of deer species, which are the white-tailed deer and the mule deer. And the white-tailed deer are mostly eastern and northern. And Paula from the Knitting Pipeline recently posted pictures of them in a
post of hers on her blog. But out west of the Missouri River, is mostly the mule deer. And they are about the same size. The interesting thing about the eastern deer, the white-tailed deer, is they get larger as they go north, which is interesting. It probably is because they're to keep warm, their body mass to area ratio needs to be better. So, but the western deer, ones we're talking about, the mule deer, they don't do that. They pretty much stay the same size from north to south. I just thought that was interesting coping mechanism. And the mule deer out where we are, there's many different subspecies, of course. The out in the Pacific on the from Northern California up to BC, there's the black-tailed deer, and they're much smaller. Um, and then so these mule deer are broken down into many different subspecies. And what we're talking about is the Rocky Mountain mule deer. And if you go further south, there's the desert mule deer, and you go in different places, and they'll vary a little bit, but they're pretty much all the same species. And so ours, you can tell the difference between a mule deer and a white-tailed deer because the mule deer have huge ears. They're unmistakable. They're very big, and they're actually kind of comical. And we won't see any antlers, but the mule deer, the ones we're talking about, have actual branches. They'll come up and fork in two different directions, and then off of those two different directions, you'll have two forks, whereas the white-tailed deer out east has just one main line with prongs coming off of it. And so also the really distinguishing characteristic is our mule deer has a white patch on its rear end, and the tip of its tail is black. And the white-tailed deer doesn't have the white patch and doesn't have black tip. And then, of course, the black-tailed deer has black tail. So that's the easy way to tell them all apart. And they're really fascinating that they are able to survive. And what they do is they're not like cattle and sheep, which are able to eat very coarse, fibrous foods like roots and twigs. These deer have high nutritional requirements, and so they need to eat leaves and shoots and tender twigs. And so in the wintertime, they'll cope by coming down out into lower elevations where the snow isn't covering everything. You'll see that though we get a lot of snow, once it stops snowing and the sun comes out, it'll melt quite a bit and expose a lot of the leaves and tender twigs. And you'll see that these guys are actually coming around my yard and eating my bags of leaves, which is fine. There are actually feeding programs for deer, and I'm assuming that's in places with really harsh winters, because it's actually much of the mortality rate happens in the winter, and it's mostly among the yearlings. And so they will actually lower their metabolism in the wintertime and slow down and move around less. And they forage in family groups. You'll see how they collect together, and they're often out in the dusk and dawn times, and they'll hunker down maybe in the midday, and they'll even go out in full moons to forage. So what we'll see out there is where they've been foraging on the junipers and the pines and the sage. There's probably more out there to eat than we realize, but I think they're also hunkering down. All of those guys you just saw in the videos were on their way to my leaves. um, so that's the deer, and the other animals we're going to be looking at are some bird tracks, and I don't have them well identified. I just know that they're probably small birds, and they're probably mountain chickadees like this guy, or juncos, which we see a lot of, but it could be something bigger like a towhee or I don't know, maybe woodpeckers. But these the tracks that we're seeing on the ground are probably from these more ground-dwelling, for ground-feeding birds. And the final creature we're going to go look at the tracks and habits of is the rabbit. And it's probably a cottontail rabbit. I don't have this guy perfectly identified, but the likelihood is that it is a mountain cottontail, probably not a European introduced rabbit, but we're going to look at their tracks. And I know it's a rabbit and not a hare or a jackrabbit. Jackrabbits are also known as hares because rabbits make their dens in little burrows and hollows underneath, and jackrabbits are just out in the open. So we're going to go look at their tracks, and I have to apologize because when I'm out there, I'm speculating a lot and asking a lot of questions and coming up with incorrect conclusions sometimes. So forgive me, but I definitely try not to pass on wrong information. I do come back and check it in the office and online as much as I can. So if I was wrong in the field, I'll correct it. Or if I don't know, I'll make sure I say that I don't know, that it's just a guess. But it is part of the fun of just going out there and trying to figure things out. So I hope you enjoy. Let's go have a look. See you out there.
Okay, it's been snowing since last Friday, so that's 4 or 5 days. The sun came out and so did the wind. It's the first time we've seen the mountains in all that time. There's the little platas covered in snow. It is so windy. That must be just raging out there. Maybe that's clouds and wind-blown snow, but it's cold, windy, and the sun has been out today, so things have been not really melting because it's so cold still. And the wind has actually blown a lot of the snow off of the trees. There were at least there's like 3 times as much snow on the trees just 4 hours ago. Winter is here. Look here, the deer are walking in our tracks from yesterday. Big round spot, human foot. Little tiny dark dot, deer foot. Almost perfectly. One in each step. So cool. Up. You decided to go that way instead. We're going that way. So you have a look around the pinyon juniper forest, and yeah, it's not all tracked up. There are a lot of tracks going here and there and everywhere. But yesterday we came out here and it was not the same magical wonderland that it is. I mean, it was a magical wonderland that it is not right now. There were wind sculpted mounds all over the place. This one still is a little bit. You can kind of see the wavy sculpted ridge on that one. But it has been yesterday was a sunny day, but very cold. So everything stayed fluffy and light and crystalline. And today, everything has melted so much. You could not see all of these. It's a whole different world. You could not see all of these shrubs sticking up yesterday. So it has melted. It probably snowed about 1.5 feet in total, and it's already melted back maybe 6 inches. Of course, more so on the south sides of places like these shrubs would have been completely buried yesterday. But, so it's kind of ruining my Christmas. It's ruining my point a little bit, but you can kind of still see that, okay, every once in a while you come around these clusters of lots of tracks, crossing each other, moving around. So there's our big dumb human tracks, the big blobby, oval-shaped ones, and then there's the long, trailing, skinny ones. Those are the deer tracks. And yesterday we came out here and we noticed that, so I had been wondering, the night before had been very windy, very cold, and I could not believe that the deer or any other animals could even survive. See all the crisscrossing tracks? And so what we found is that up on so the wind is coming from the north, the way you're looking right now, and then what we found yesterday, so this is completely ruining my whole story, was yesterday this was all covered in snow, and there was one little circle where you could tell a little body had been curled up, and then you could really see all around the base of this tree where the snow had been tamped down, and all of these little foot tracks emanating from this little locust point. So I imagine a bunch of deer were cuddled up in here on the lee side of trees and waiting it out for the night. And we were walking around and we'd get psyched out because there'd be a spot where it looked like maybe they were, but really it was just a bunch of slump of snow from the trees that had fallen down and made the surface look different. But we could really tell when there had been deer around because there's all the little poops everywhere. But yeah, this one's really obvious. I mean, there's just deer tracks going in all directions from out of here. So imagine this might have been kind of a big one where they were huddled. Pretty cool. Here's some more wind sculpting that's intact. And a track. Who is that? Sometimes it's really hard to tell if you're dealing with a rodent or a bird. The possibilities are, I mean, they are finite. It could be chipmunk, squirrel. I think this is in the scale of chipmunk. It could be birds. Sometimes you can see a gap. Here's a gap. You can kind of see where it's going, and then there's a gap, and then it starts again. That makes me think it's bird because they can fly a little bit, but little rodents can hop too. They don't usually. I never see them doing it, but birds you see hopping all the time. Yeah, okay, so this one comes around the tree, disappears, and of course a lot of stuff may have melted away today, but these are fresh from today, I can tell. And then maybe he jumped in the tree, and then she hopping around again. Whatever it is, rodent or bird. But it makes me think, this is interesting because it's coming over here to this hole in the snow that's formed around the bushes. And yesterday there was so much more snow all around the bushes, you can see, that there were all these little holes going underneath them. Another place for critters to snuggle. And I'm imagining that the rodents already have dens. You know, I've seen some dens under logs and holes in the ground. So I'm guessing maybe these are birds. I'll see if I can find more bird tracks, but their little temporary homes, which maybe were just for the storm, are slowly melting away. I wonder if it's safe for a bird who's normally a tree dweller to take shelter under the ground during storms. Because predators aren't out either, maybe? Didn't know. Here is another indication that it's bird. I see a line of tracks kind of coming from that dark blotch in the upper right, arcing around through the middle to the bottom left to these bushes here. And then, poof. Only a bird can do that. That's either a takeoff or a landing. And I'm guessing junco, chickadee, small bird, hop hop. It's really difficult for me to figure out which direction they're going. Because you know when they land, sometimes they do a little hop hop. And I've often seen tracks where when they take off, you can see some wing flap. So I'm guessing maybe this is a landing. Maybe. Maybe. I'm just looking at this little, the way that there's a trailing mark off the back there. I'm guessing that's the back. And that the bird was going in this picture from right to left. Only because so many tracks leave a trail like that in the behind direction. Aha! Here's a whole den. Okay. These guys are coming or going from that direction. Can't tell. Birds. Almost positively birds. And they're all emanating from yesterday. Okay, see how they all converge in this direction? That was a hole. Perfect hole. It's collapsed. Kind of tells me for sure that these are storm temporary homes. Unless they burrow again, but yeah, I'm not getting a sense of direction. These, you can see the tail, the dragging tail or dragging back toe on these tracks. It makes it really difficult for me to tell what direction these birds are going. You can kind of see on the left of these two-pronged. Maybe that's the back toe. Okay, the plot thickens. We're in the same place as we just were. There are tracks, a couple coming from that direction, over these bushes, maybe into those bushes. Some continued. There's 3 sets of tracks here. Different bird, same bird? I can't tell. Going across, they went across that bush and into that little hole. There's more coming from different directions. There's some coming from my big shadow, and there's some coming from those little bushes. And voila! Last night or today, they found a different way in. This is the back of that same hump. Oh my god. I can only guess that this is the same species of bird, either coming and going. There's either one bird coming or going, or several birds. And if it's several birds, I'm guessing same species. Because I can't imagine different species nesting together. So that looks like an individual track. And these look like individual tracks. Which way are they going? You can only guess, again, that they were going from left to right. That the tail is dragging behind on the left, and then the wide part of the foot, both little hoppy feet, are in front on the right. Okay, so that guy's going from right to left, going into the den, and then maybe these are going the opposite direction, out of the den. I'm gonna go with that for now, but we've seen before, I can be wrong. If I look this up and it's any different, I'll let you know. Let's see where this guy went. Looks like he nibbled around this shrub a little bit. See if there's anything to eat. Oh, we'll dance around this a little bit. Who knows what that was about? Saying hi to somebody else, maybe? Come over here. And something about the tree. Looks like he kept going on the other side of the tree. Tick, 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 tick. This is a bird. Why isn't he just flying? So now, into the bushes. into Bunnyland. Ready? I'm not going to shrink you, but we're going into Bunnyland. These are old. These are from, well, one day old. They're from yesterday. And snow tracks usually increase in size over time because the snow melts and the print gets larger, but these are going straight into the bushes. And yesterday, sorry, I keep saying yesterday, the bird tracks were from today. This guy was going straight into a little tunnel that was this bush, which isn't anymore. I think animals just find a new home every night. Maybe not. Don't quote me on that. More bunny tracks coming and going from under Brer Rabbit's log and out the other side. We have little cotton-tailed rabbits, which I don't know specifically what they are, and we have the big jackrabbits too. And thinking this is one of the little guys, but just for scale, how big is that? That's probably a back foot.
So I'm overdubbing the audio from this track because I was completely wrong yesterday, but this is the telltale rabbit track, the pattern of 4 prints. The 2 little dots in the back are kind of overlapping on the lower side, and there are 2 bigger ones on the upper side. And the way rabbits run is they place their 2 forepaws down, and then the back ones swing around the front legs and imprint actually in front. The back legs are printing in front of the front legs. And so this rabbit was going bottom to top in our direction, leaving those 2 little prongs of his back legs trailing behind.
Okay, this one right here. I think what we're seeing is 2 heels in the back, because they have longer back legs than front legs, and 2 paws in the front. So he would have been going this way and dragging his little toes as he hopped. So check these out in comparison to the other bunny tracks. This guy, they're further spaced, each little blob, and the blobs themselves are stretched out and long. See, I remember my hand from last time? So this is the area that definitely looks tamped down into kind of a circle. And this being on the north side of the tree, where it would have been really windy, makes me think that whoever this was here last night, because it wasn't windy last night. And there are deer tracks, and there are going in those 2 directions. There's also a very strong bunny track, which I just followed, and so I'm thinking this bunny track was just passing through, and this guy is on top of the bunny tracks. You can see the bunny track coming from there and being gone where the deer, I'm thinking one deer body laid there, and the rabbit tracks keep going. Again, these are yesterday's rabbit tracks. And they go, and they go, and they go. Several rabbits, or one going back and forth, I don't know, into the rabbit hole. No joke. And they kept going. No. 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 That was a den. That is definitely a den. I've got only deer tracks on this other side, on the back side of the den. Ha! Over here we've got a lot of deer activity. And yesterday you could see that they had uncovered the shrubs themselves. They're totally uncovered now, but here is where they were all hanging out and snuffing through snow to get to the sage, which is probably mostly what they're eating right now, other than the leaves in my yard. And it's a beautiful solstice. And there are deer tracks everywhere in here, so we're in the same spot. We just saw them foraging. And it must be a greatly yeah, we're kind of in this sort of zone. We're surrounded by trees on all sides. So this may be a very sheltered place for them to hang out. And sure enough, we walked here yesterday and we found one of those locations where everything was tamped down under the trees, tracks coming out from everywhere. Telltale sign of waking up in the morning and getting up and needing to go. They were coming and going all over the place. The direction deer are going is a little easier. You can often see the imprints of their toe tracks to see which direction they're going. Narrow points forward, and that, you know, it's kind of a heart shape, but the pointy end is pointing the direction they're going. So maybe you can see that. You can definitely see where the toe has kicked into the snow, and then they're dragging their feet behind. Definitely going that way. We're going that way too. Whoever this was just going in circles, that's for sure. What on earth is that? Those are enormous. There's several of them. They're coming and going. They seem to take the same path every time. All I know is they're huge.